I'm an Assistant Director of Research at International Center for Research in Islamic Economics, Minhaj University, Lahore. The theme of this panel discussion number 4, the world of technology, finance, fintech, and advent of big techs is a boon or a bane to banking and finance. This is an important topic, especially in the current scenario where the Google, Facebook, these big techs have tapped into the banking and financial services industry. The moderator of this session is Mr. Mughees Shaukat. He is actually affiliated with different organizations, IOFI, IAPEF, and College of Banking and Financial Studies, Oman. He's a fintech expert. Now, when we have 4 panelists from 4 different organizations and 4 different territories. So this session is going to be an interesting session. So I over to and invite Mr. Mughees Shaukat. Please proceed and move forward. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, dear Brother Hasnan, and Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, and I'm glad to join back this time as a role of a session chair. And with me, I have an astonishing and prestigious level of experts and panelists joining me from different parts of the globe. I'll go to Middle East, then I'll move to Turkey. Albania is there. Amel, how's it going? And then, of course, our brother from Lebanon and Kuwait, Kateeb. Kateeb, awesome having you over here. Now, guys, as you've heard from the intro, that this is an extremely, extremely important session in the whole event, among the whole sessions in the whole event. And, the uniqueness that it will cater more to the conference is the fact that the content that we will provide will set the tone of the future of financial system and banking system, of course, not only in the international sector or Pakistan, but also to the younger population who are going to be listening to this and who are quite engaged in this conference. I mean, one of the features of this conference is that how much youth it brings to its shores and attracts. And I want to make sure that because the younger people are going to be the torchbearer for such a technology-driven financial performances and models, I think it's very, very important that we live up to the expectations, and you would rightly do so given the collective thought process. So folks, I want to keep the session very free flow. I don't want to straight jacket it into formal traditional approaches. I want to keep it interesting just enough to make sure that there is penetration for the times to come and some policy prescriptions on these lines. You would have noticed that we have talked about fintech, and we have now coming into phenomena of big techs. I have at least two big techs, 2 giant big techs. I can see them getting younger by the day. Emrah, how's it going? Last time I saw you was a bearded you, huh? So yeah, and then the Microsoft guy, absolute geek. You look to be a Microsoft already, huh?
Yes, thank you, Mughees.
All right, cool. So big tech, as you would know, folks, are an advanced version of fintechs. So big techs are those versions that are controlled by technology giants like Microsoft's, Google's, PayPal's. They call it FANG. FANG stands for Facebook, Google, Netflix, even Amazon. So these are those FANGs. Now Zoom is in the picture after the current pandemic scenario. These are those technology giants who don't necessarily need a customer base or a market base that is reinvented. They already have big data, big customer base, big technology names, as well as they can dance the regulatory solutions. That's what I perceive. And Islamic banks like the one that is run by Amel, would want to think forward in the near future how we can associate with these big techs that is going to run this. To fintech. So folks, I want to straight away kick in this, and I want to start and want to focus first with Roberto. Roberto, are you ready, man?
I'm always ready.
Fantastico, Roberto, fantastico. Roberto, my man, this is it. You're a technology giant, you're a big tech, Microsoft. Who doesn't know Microsoft? And you have been into this financial sector for quite some time. You understand how it's involving the financial landscape I'm talking about. And with the advent of technology, we still call it fintech. I think big tech is the next game, and that's the actual G-force. So, and sooner or later, if not already, the financial sector is going from a financier intermediary or entrepreneur or end receiver mode to a direct financier entrepreneur mode or an end user mode within technology doing that intermediation. Crowdfunding, angel investing, mobile banking, etc. are very common examples. Now with 2025 and 2030 in focus, of course, in a post-pandemic multipolar world, which is dominated by a younger population and economic diversification prospects in key regions of the world, what do you think that Microsoft SME has on offer to capitalize on these opportunities that I've just mentioned in 4 or 5 elements joined together? And what can you prescribe for a Pakistani government who is A, focusing a lot on youth, B, focusing a lot on youth that is oriented towards technology, and they are looking forward for out-of-the-box economic solutions using youth and technology as their key components of their repertoire. So you being leading the Microsoft SME in view of the technology advance and big techs, what do you have to say?
Look, it's a great. You touched across different things in your introduction, and thanks for having me in this great panel. Look, you touched one thing, and youth is something we really believe in, and we think that entrepreneurship is a mindset that should start early on, right? So. First of all, the technology side, and then some, you said some recommendations for government. On the technology side, technology is a means to an end. I've been working in technology company for quite a long time now, and I can tell it's almost never about technology itself. It's most about the people, right? It's the human side of technology that makes a big difference. We came with, and we've seen Satya moved to CEO at Microsoft. He is pushing this concept of tech intensity that I think fits also very well in our region at large and in Pakistan as well, which is this concept of skilling and enabling everyone from a single individuals to organizations to achieve more by adopting more of the technology. And we've seen this in the pandemic has been amplified even more, right? There has been, we see it in 3 phases. There has been a response phase to the pandemic. There has been a kind of a recover phase. But what we are aiming towards is the 3rd phase, which is a reimagine the future regardless of the pandemic. And this is where youth play a vital role. If you think about Generation Z, the millennials and the young people, they have more than previous generation. They have this sense of purpose. And they really associate brands with purpose, and they pretend and they expect that brands are tied to a purpose, and they're bringing these new ideas that I think in this part of the world, given the younger population that we have, when it comes to finance and financial inclusion, but also financial literacy, in some of the countries in the region, we manage still take Egypt, for example. I don't know the exact number in Pakistan, but Egypt is 80% the population is still unbanked, right? So there is a big disconnect there when it comes to financial inclusion and financial literacy. So the role that Microsoft or big technology player, in my opinion, not just Microsoft, can play here is the one of skilling people, skilling young people, but everyone to understand what technology can be used for, but also inspire people to see how by using technology you can have impact on the lives of millions of people, and especially in fintech, this could be really impactful across our region. So my recommendations or my ask to government, I would say, is one of really double down and investing into skilling of people and believing in youth, but also enabling them to fail fast, to go into this entrepreneurial route and have their ideas out implemented. So at the end of the day, the role of an ecosystem, of a startup ecosystem, is the one of supporting, really enabling entrepreneurs and even young entrepreneurs to give them the support that they need to thrive and to be successful. So I would say, given that Pakistan is still largely an underserved market, and that's where the opportunity is, the government there can have a unique opportunity to have a longer term strategy, and not just put a short-term vanity metrics as we see happening most of the times in terms of number of startups that are funded or but something more meaningful to have a longer term impact on the economy and the world at large. There is a lot of talent already there. So the role we can play and other technology player can have is the one of skilling and enabling people, enabling youth to leverage technology for scaling, for building products that people are going to use and for solving real problems. That's where we expect also the role of the government is to bridge the gaps also across other constituents or players in the ecosystem and have people contribute to focus on real problems and leverage technology to try to solve them. I think you're on mute, Mughees.
Sorry about that. I'm just saying mi gracias, Roberto. I really like the point you've mentioned, reimagining the future and reorienting or perhaps fine-tuning the direction, even if it has to be on youth that is driven by technology and a tech-savvy youth. And this is what this is a beautiful idea. Why? Because I believe we are living in an environment which we call as digitization of civilizations already happening. And I think if we do not reimagine or redefine and refine our youth's focus on what we have to say, I think, more or less, we might as well, in one way or the other, sort of misfire or lose reaching potentials the way we should have. And I want to come back to you on this point and pick some brains from Emrah. Emrah. So, Emrah, you've been again, another big PayPal. Who doesn't know PayPal? When are you guys coming to Pakistan? Whenever I'm talking to Pakistani folks, they just go crazy. When are PayPal giving us access? I know there are some international issues, but I don't want to push you too much on that. Idea. Yeah, but PayPal. What is your intake about that? Would you agree that the banking or financial sector as we knew is going to be over, if not over, and with you Bigtechs coming in, and of course PayPal is going to be a key in overall synergy of Bigtechs delivering to the financial sector. What do you think, is the way forward where PayPal, if I could say, would it want to expand its portfolio vis-a-vis the new demands that are developing and coming in very fast, PayPal?
So I think there's going to be a couple of things that's going to come into play, Mughees, right? And I think that comes with a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities at the same time. One of the things that's going to be a key change for the youth is, and the Pakistani youth, is now the playing field is leveled to an extent compared to a lot of the bigger players and companies with a lot of capital. And the reason that the playing field has been leveled, historically, the investments that the businesses have made traditionally have been towards the offline, right? So now with the significant shift to an online commerce, there is a lot of opportunity to kind of come in with a limited investment that you might have made, but still succeed as much as some of these bigger players. It could come in a couple of forms. One thing is different from an offline to online is that usually you start off in an offline business with one store in one location and then gradually expand into different markets and different geographies. Online, and with the shift of the pandemic, the opportunity is you have the chance to start with a larger total addressable market and customize your platform and your experiences, your businesses, tailoring to where the businesses are mainly coming from, which corridors, which market segments, which consumer segments, and so on, right? So what I'm trying to say is you could start selling to the whole global world as an entrepreneur, and then customize if the German corridor on the products and services that you sold was a bigger success, and customize your solutions to having a customer service in German in localized language, maybe Japan, maybe it's Turkey, maybe it's the US, but you have a chance to start with a bigger addressable market and come down from it, rather than starting from one store and expanding globally. And these are, a lot of investments that would be required to have. So I think from this angle, there's a lot of opportunity to the Pakistani youth and the youths in general in our growth markets. The challenge there is obviously the business planning and the knowledge. And that's why this type of gatherings and platforms are so valuable, right? Because these are these are some unknown areas to a lot of the youth. They don't know what type of tools they have in handy, be from Microsoft and PayPal or be from a local solution, right? So what are the important factors for these youth for their growth, right? And these are the tools to use, be PayPal, be Microsoft, be whatever. I think that's a challenge. How do you steer these youths towards this? And I think the governments have a lot to play, right? The governments should have policies in place that support electronic commerce, and be that not only electronic commerce, but electronic exports. And there's a huge Chinese success story here that I think everyone would acknowledge, right? And electronic exports is something that is untapped, and with the disruption to the supply chains and the entire, the way that people do business, we are not only should look at this from an entrepreneurship, but how is this going to, impact the export, flux of foreign exchange coming into the country, which is more valuable than any other area that we're going through. And that's my
wow, that's an eye-opener. Emrah, congratulations on this, because you have hit the nail on the head. And I see Roberto shaking his head in consonance. This is such a unique point, and I'm sure the government in Pakistan, even other places, myself in the Omani shores, I'm sure Roberto would agree, in Dubai as well, that is happening very fast. Ecosystem is being laid over there. Turkey is one example. But you have actually, put $1 million thing in the perspective to go for investing on youth entrepreneurship that is also driven by exporting technology or, electronic exports. This is amazing. And I think we should not get China as, forget China as a huge success example. And this is how it became one of the poles of economic growth in the whole scheme of affairs. And thank you very much for bringing this up, Emrah, very unique observation. I have a huge Islamic banker with me, and I want to have his say, but what I want to do, Amel, is I want to reach out to you, in the last. Why? Because I want you to then encapsulate on what these technology freaks have mentioned, so that we hear you not only sharing your KPIs and what you're up to in your Albanian territory. It's a fantastic bank, guys. I get to know this bank, every day personally. Ambitions are amazing. So, but this is where Kateeb comes in. Kateeb, are you with me over here? Buddy?
I'm with you.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Kateeb, salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Yes.
Now, Kateeb is of PayPal and Microsoft. You think you're Bigtechs? Well, guess what? Path Solution is an up-and-coming big tech in the Islamic financial sector. And they have, you name it, and they have it. Skill-wise, brand-wise, performance-wise, synergy-wise, Kateeb, congratulations on making what Path Solution is turning out to be. And I think you're in a unique position because you've been to conventional financial sector and now serving the Islamic financial sector. You're in a very fine position where you have seen both the worlds, Kateeb. And in so many places, particularly in the Islamic sector, it's a bit of a been there, done that thing that is now already in the order of the day for Path. Now, I want to ask you and pick your brains, Kateeb. What do you think? Do you think, if you want to implement all of what Roberto or Tahir or myself has submitted in the intro, with the advent of fintech and now Bigtechs coming in as an actual threat to the financial sector, not the fintechs, of course. This is what I believe. They're complementary in nature. What challenges are you perceiving? Of course, to you, there will be additional challenges that has to do a lot with Sharia governance and Sharia regulation. But what is a bunch of prominent challenges that you, providing all of this to Islamic sector, you're going to face, Kateeb? With youth in focus, of course.
Yeah.
Because they're the driving force.
Yeah, I would like to start by thanking the organizers for inviting me again to be part of this great conference. Let me just, before talk about the challenges, highlight the importance of addressing these challenges. I would like to talk about a person. Basically, I didn't only come from the conventional banking. Actually, before that, I spent 20 years in a multinational, and I ran very large geography for Microsoft, actually. I was the managing director of the Middle East. And I understand that the old world that we used to live in used to be those great multinationals. And then we created an ecosystem, a local ecosystem around them, and created great economies with a lot of partners. Microsoft, when I was part of it, has one of the largest ecosystems as partners as possible. And we were very proud of going into those local economies and creating amazing ecosystem around us and creating an economy. And we facilitated the amazing competencies and we created a lot of businesses. The problem that I see and the risk right now that we have from the big techs and what is happening in the economy is basically this e-commerce and this new revolution in the technology is cutting the middleman out. And cutting the middleman out means that a lot of those great technology companies really do not need the local partners. And I moved my company, Path Solution, completely to the cloud, and I'm dealing with Microsoft directly, and I'm not dealing with any local partners. So this introduced a tremendous challenge to the local economies. Where do you play? And especially, let's talk about our friend here, Emrah. I mean, if PayPal comes in as a payment solution, then basically you can really, really hurt some of the local players in that place. I believe this is highlighted in 2020, when you had basically every economy almost suffering, but the top 5 or 6 technology companies, their stock price actually almost doubled, and they're doing much better than anybody else. The wealthy, those companies become so wealthy, where all the economies, and this is, by the way, a trend is going to continue. So we have to wake up and find a new formula, how the local economy is going to work with those big techs and both. Listen, the G-force in all this is technology. I understand Roberto's point about humans and all that, but really it was a technology revolution that changed all these things around the world, and almost in every sector and every financial. And the challenge right now for all the local companies, including local Islamic banks, including local financial institutions, is to find what is our role, how we can compete with the big techs, how we can compete with those global fintechs, etc. And I believe it's gonna take a cultural revolution internally in this organization. It's gonna take the regulators has to play a key role in how all this is gonna play. It's gonna take a lot of work, and I am sad to say I am not seeing it. People are being blindsided by the excitement of technology and what's happening on the world theater or stage, that they are not really taking care of what is our role in the future. Some European countries start waking up to that, and you can see Germany saying, you know what, our data doesn't leave Germany. Any cloud provider has to come and build the clouds in Germany, and any fintechs, all those technology companies has to be taxed, etc., etc. It's a very long discussion, but I believe it's very important, this discussion to put on the table with all this excitement about the big techs and the big fintechs and all that, is where is the small local player? Okay, you can create amazing innovation locally, but what is their role in this huge ecosystem is the big question that we have to ask.
Well, I mean, this is again very unique your observation. And Kateeb, you're usually this is what I get from you having in my sessions. You know, I mean, I want to have you as a common element in my session because you bring into perspective, you know, things that really needs to be addressed. Let's start the discussion now, and what you've just said, and as you rightly pointed out, I mean, not much is being done proactively to address your concerns. And, you know, I mean, particularly when you go to the Middle Eastern Southeast Asian region, particularly where are dominated by the by the Muslim folks, you see this trajectory of or approach in everything, be it socio-economic affairs, be it welfare affairs, be it political affairs, be it normal lifestyle affairs, education, and even technology and financial sector. So I hear your concern. They are very serious concern, and I think something has to be done. And this is where I think Microsoft and PayPal have to go beyond normal from their portfolio to come up from a soft capital infrastructure as well, and cater to the concerns that Kateeb has. And this is what brings me to Amel. And Amel, you're a leader of an Islamic bank. I'm personally privy to your ambitions and your visions. Mashallah, very strong. As young as those can get, and may Allah bless you to materializing the same. You've heard these folks.
Yes.
That technology is there. Fintech solutions are already knocking at the door, if not already entered the banking arena and financial arena. Folks like Microsoft, PayPal, Facebook, they're already there. Libra is there. PayPal is, I'm sure, getting out of comfort zone and trying to address its portfolio vis-a-vis the new age demands. Kateeb has already raised a bit of a red flag to what PayPal can do in terms of if they come in big in the financial sector. MS or Microsoft is going to be everywhere. Amel, how have you perceived this barrage of technological advancement? And of course, being an Islamic bank in an Albanian market, which is, of course, is a small market, what are your visions, strategy? How are you going to attune your customers, or is it vice versa, customers attuning your bank, the staff mentality, your own strategy, what KPIs you're going to set 2021 onwards? I know the G20 initiatives and what they're trying to push in Europe, and your bank is under that too. So in all of this, you being a huge leader of an Islamic bank in an Albanian economy, what is your way of going about these affairs?
First, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this session. I'm really privileged to be in a club with such kind of experts, and I'm learning, of course. I would like to start with the 3 mega trends which are happening, technological advancements which we are witnessing as such, demographic changes which are very important in our decision making, and they cannot be globalized. They are rather regional issues. In Europe, let's say until 2050, we as a Europe continent, we are going to lose about 50 million people. So our population is aging, and it is a little bit different than what is happening in the Middle East or in the Far East regarding the population. Another very important issue for us is the behavioral changing. These are the mega trends which are happening: technology, demographics, and behaviors. So having in mind that Albania is one of the European countries, and that Muslim population in this country, practicing Muslim population in this country is quite tiny, and that this country is in transition, and there are certain social developmental problems which has to be addressed, I believe that strategy of Islamic Bank in such an environment should be rather to if I can say, to follow what Deng Xiaoping said. The color of the cat does not matter as long as it catches the mice. So what we need to do, we need to be such kind of problem solvers in societies, where the indifferent customers, which are not prescribing especially to any kind of worldview or not to Islamic worldview, are able to recognize or identify the added value that solution provider, in this case financial solution provider, is offering in the market. So I believe that this is the strategy that Islamic banks should take not necessarily only in the countries where the Muslim population is tiny, but rather in general, because our societies do have certain problems, and we should identify those problems, and we should try to provide solutions for such kind of problems within the domain of the finance and services which we are going to provide. So in that light, being in a market where all other conventional banking giants from Europe are present as well, I don't have other opportunity but to try to find a solution or a strategy, business strategy for the United Bank of Albania, which is going to actually try to open the door of different arena for competition, where I would like to jump over my competition and to try to identify the niche markets which are there and do have problems, financial problems or business problems, which providers such as the bank, leveraged by and empowered by technology and strategic partners from different complementary sectors will able to take part and to provide a specific offer. So in short run, what we are focused, especially in this year, is digitalization of our existing traditional banking processes and offers and services, so that we are actually up to the level of customer experience which is already in the market. But in the long run, we would like to open and explore opportunities to find and identify the issues and the markets in Albania which are more or less not tapped at all, especially as dear colleagues mentioned, that there are export-oriented issues, because Albania is a great country with beautiful offerings in different segments and sectors. And I believe that there is a lot of things to be improved, especially, let's say, in agriculture. Let's say Albania is going to be a powerhouse for production of different type of foods in this region. Why? Because of natural resources, because of the Mediterranean climate, and so on. But what is missing there? The business integration is missing, and sophisticated, efficient solutions which are going to actually help producers, the farmers, to be able to associate themselves with processing companies, with the exporters, and so on. And I believe that Islamic Bank or any other institution which is actually oriented to help society to improve, to develop, has to tackle such kind of the issues and to try to make a business case for itself. There are other issues, as I mentioned. Demography is quite difficult in Europe, and we are witnessing that young population, which is the most productive part of our societies, are usually migrating to the more advanced economies in Europe. So there is also the business case for remittance, which has to be provided in a proper way, which is more or less convenient, cheap, and localized. I believe that local solution, apart from big techs and big solutions, if I can say global solution, that still the tailor-made solutions for particular demands, for particular markets, have to play a certain role in the future. Of course, there will be some kind of complementarity, but I believe that local providers, local solutions, regional solutions, tailor-made solutions have a role to play in a market like this. Of course, it's not easy. It's not easy to implement such kind of the vision. The market is not yet educated for such kind of projects to happen in long run, but we have to build up the climate and ecosystems which are going to provide us critical labor force, which is in this particular case for Islamic banks well-trained in Islamic banking practices, but also to have out-box thinking related to technology and to be able to dream and to create and to design new solutions, new services for our market, and not necessarily only for our market. If we prove to be successful, we can go regional. This is actually one of our main aims in the future. Related to the regulators, of course, to have Islamic bank in countries like Bosnia or Albania, it's not an easy job because we do not Islamic banking legislation, and we have to have a very agile, very dynamic and transparent discussions and interactions with our regulators in order to explain to them what exactly we are trying to do, and some of the things which are normal in some other environment where Islamic banking laws are implemented, we are constrained to do. But this is a long way to go, but we are having very open and constructive communication with the Bank of Albania, and we hope that in a time to come we will have more and more space for our activities in the banking arena in Albania. So the public education, the training and education of the staff, selection of the staff, the agile HRM processes has to be in a place in order for us to be able as a leaders to motivate and allocate our resources in such a way to bring added value to the customers. What matters is the customer experience. At this point of time, this is the at most desired achievements of any kind of solution providers. I can imagine myself as a shish kebab restaurant or any halal restaurant in any country which is not Muslim country, or a city which is not a predominantly Muslim city. If I have a good food, if I have a good service, if my interior is attractive to my customers, they don't care whether it is halal, whether it is or not. They want a good food, they want a good service, and they want added value which that restaurant is providing. As an Islamic bank, this is what I'm trying to create here in Albania with my team, and this is to provide a superb service, a competitive service, and to answer to the financial problems of my clients, regardless who they are and what are their beliefs and what are the principles they are following in their life.
Mashallah, brother. I mean, Amel, and then, you know, I mean, this is the way forward. I think this is a very open 360-degree strategy, which is taking care of all the key components almost, and of course, driving all of them through technology, because this is the order of the day. Now, guys, I mean, I want to bring your, and this just came into my mind, and given the presence of all your, you know, powerhouse folks, you know, I mean, I wanted to add this element. You know, we've been talking about fintech, big tech, entrepreneurs, and youth having a prominent role in this tech-savvy world that is coming our way, if not already there. It doesn't matter whatever solutions or models or smartness that we cater to the world, financial, non-financial. One thing that comes as a necessary package with all this technology freakness is risk of cybersecurity. Sort of risks that, you know, system is quite unaccustomed to, you know, management-wise, understanding-wise, perception-wise, prediction-wise, modeling-wise, even the mathematical tools, and quants are not even aware of that too. And combine it with an even bigger risk that I intentionally want to bring to our discussion is the risk of climate change. And that's not far away as well. Now, technology guys, Emrah's, Path Solutions, PayPal's, Roberto's from Microsoft, and then of course the Islamic banks. Guys, these are the two things that are going to decide if everything is going to be a boon or a bane. No matter what level of smartness that we create, no matter how tech savvy we become, no matter even if we invent a time machine, climate change, and even time machine will have a cybersecurity risk, by the way, and not independent of facing a climate change risk too. So What are you going to do? Are you aware of it? You know, and this is not far. You're talking about 5 to 10 years down the road, and straight away you will have, conferences or models that are orienting technology to fight climate change. This is what I meant, a transition risk in picture when I was giving my keynote a couple of hours ago. I want to pick your brains. This was not in our domain of discussions, but please, I want to pick your brains on this. How are you going to counter climate change and cybersecurity? Roberto, you go first.
Yes, sorry, let me unmute. So you touched two great points, Mughees. And as probably Kateeb was mentioning before, being a part of Microsoft, right? So I would say Microsoft is hugely committed on both. And when it comes to climate change, I would say it's even broader than that. Is all about sustainability, right? So there was this announcement last year about Microsoft wanted to become not even carbon neutral, but carbon negative by 2030. And there is a huge focus to embed sustainability in whatever Microsoft is going to do. And in my case, for example, working with the startups, we are definitely prioritizing and working with startups that are working towards social impact and sustainability and developing solutions that are going to tackle into those real problems. So before we said, the role of these big techs is, let me say, ambiguous, right? Because on one hand, they are too big to fail and are, of course, centralizing and let's be straightforward. If you are one of those unicorns, chances are, where are you going to exit to? You know, it could be one of these techs. So where the flow of wealth is going towards, right? So is kind of rich is becoming richer, and this trend is still amplifying today. So I agree with that. But on the other end, there are these organizations, and I can speak for Microsoft, that they are also giving back a lot, right? So by, for example, taking the lead and lead by example on sustainability or carbon neutrality or becoming carbon negative, and taking the lead on that and being vocal and sharing that, this inspires other organizations to follow. So this is key. At the same time, by giving back is also about skilling people and making people aware of what is needed too, right? So for example, we launched here in the region a wonderful initiative that is under the name of Microsoft Reactor, which is a whole community space where we are providing for free, completely for free, without any sales intent, trainings, workshops for developers, for tech people, for young people, and so on and so forth. And then it's pushing, I would say, the social impact agenda. For me, is the way we measure success determines a lot of the behaviors that we see happening, right? So it's not about growth at any cost anymore. And I'm focusing maybe more on the area that I cover, which is mainly startups. We have seen these crazy, huge valuations of startups that ended up in nothing, right? Because it's just inflated in this sort of a bubble. And there is no real value. So it's not about growth at any cost. And I guess the pandemic just accelerated or made it evident, but it started even before, regardless of COVID. We saw some crazy valuations into 2019 from Uber, Lyft, and the likes, right, that were too inflated. So I think there is more awareness now, and still a lot of work to be done towards creating this social impact, but also what is the measure of success? Because it's not just both from the investor side and the entrepreneur side. It's not just about growth or revenues. It's also about what are the real measure of social impact that then are going to be recognized and then being accepted and then being also celebrated, if you want, because that is a positive reinforcement as well, right? So that's also important. So it's a matter of, I would say, if you ask me, is taking the lead, and these organizations like Microsoft, for example, you can say all what we were saying before on one hand, but on the other hand, it's really about giving back and taking the lead and showing, what could be the path forward. And at the end of the day is by really practicing what you preach, right? So for example, for us, when we launch programs for startups, we definitely prioritize startups that have a social impact and the startups that are thinking about making the world a better place. So it's true that the concentration of these big techs might be concerning. At the same time, and probably Kateeb mentioned on it before, and this is when I joined Microsoft, I was really impressed about how real this is. And probably a quote from Satya summarized it all. It says, when he says you don't join Microsoft to be cool, but to make others cool. And this is the essence of partnerships, right? So it's true that a big tech like this one is kind of centralizing, but it's also true that it's enabling a number of partners, and the partner network at Microsoft is really huge. It's probably still one of the largest in the world. Is enabling these old partners to, to achieve more and to help their customers to achieve more, right? So I believe in this partnership model is really key, because it can, scale and achieve more impact as long as you're driven by the right purpose and you're measuring the right metrics. That metrics that have real impact and not just vanity metrics.
That's very, very observant and very, very, keen, evaluation to us what Microsoft already is up to, and this puts pressure on PayPal. PayPal, I mean, what's your take on cybersecurity risk and climate change risk? And by the way, not to mention that the Pakistani government itself is going on a 10 billion tree tsunami. They're planting 10 billion tree to address proactively the climate change scenario. PayPal, are you going to go out of your comfort and expand portfolio proactively in catering all of these things?
So let me comment on the cybersecurity part of it a little bit more than the climate change to an extent. With the cybersecurity, being in the payments over 2 decades, we have done a lot of investments and a lot of, thought process went into the way the behaviors is changing and the way that the people are connecting to the internet and the way that people are interacting with each other are all changing. So rather than relying on, for us, some rules that are built on filters, we are turning into the AI. So that's what we are kind of doing in terms of the cybersecurity, right? And understanding not only transactional behavior and risks and kind of red flags, but we're also identifying, what a normal consumer behavior should look like. Any discrepancies to that is sometimes a red flag to us. And that could be, the height of your phone from the ground, if it's fully charged or not. For us, these are valuable insights that we are able to protect our customers. And we're doing that in such a good way that we're able to give a buyer protection to the consumer franchise that we have, saying that money back guaranteed. And same thing on the merchants, sell anywhere with PayPal and it's money back guaranteed if you get any losses due to a fraud or a chargeback. So from a cybersecurity perspective, I think, PayPal have always been ahead of the curve. When it comes to the climate change, I mean, I'm not in the liberty to answer, as far as, what we're doing in our data centers and so on, but what I could tell is we are a big portion of digitalizing businesses today and commerce today. And there is an unprecedented demand to the services that we have worldwide, that we are now more relevant than any other time in our company's history for our customers and to our prospect customers in the future. And with that digitalization, your offline print and your kind of your print that you don't have to maybe go to a physical store and turn on the lights and kind of get into your car and go to work type of thing. So we are part of that ecosystem, providing a solution that you could run a business at home or you could run a digital business. And that has in parallel some sort of a impact on our footprint.
Well, wow, I mean, you see, this was very crisp, very crisp. I do not want to go into details on what PayPal is doing vis-a-vis climate change. You just gave us a bit of a glimpse. And, while Emrah and Roberto was talking and the stuff that was coming, and I'm still trying to get bearings right, it reminded me of a new car model I saw. They call it Mercedes Avatar. I don't know how many people have seen that. I can send you a link on YouTube. Man, oh man. I mean, this is exactly what Emrah and Roberto are hinting to in a modern car model with climate change and I'm not going to say cybersecurity risk into focus. I think that enhances a little more. But if you want to see something that is happening on the lines of what Roberto and Emrah were saying, I think Emrah, you can be a payment gateway for buying that car with Mercedes solution. Awesome car.
That's funny. That's
Mercedes at the top.
One thing, Mughees, one thing maybe I could comment is that funny fact. So I was looking at some of the interesting things that is being purchased by PayPal, and excavator comes out, something that's interesting, right? The construction machine, and expensive as an excavator. You kind of can buy it with PayPal, and in the UAE, a consumer survey that we used to do, a lady was telling that she bought an X5 BMW out of a dealership in Texas, US.
Wow.
I was like, how could you?
Wow.
That's interesting. I was very keen on finding out more. I was like, tell me more. Like, how? Really? Like, and yeah, she's like, yeah, it's PayPal. Not that not because I'm working for the company, but really the perception around security and PayPal goes very much hand in.
This is very new age. This is new age Michael Jackson stuff going on in terms of payment, PayPal usage as well.
True. I mean, from an engagement, I could never imagine a consumer in the UAE buying something from Texas, like a car, and get it shipped over. And I was like, how did you pay for it? And she goes, I just sent, money sent. Not even like a transactional, like a commerce transaction where it could be protected out of a seller protection, buyer protection. So she didn't have even coverage for it because she just rented the money back to the US. I was like, I know that if they didn't deliver the SUV, you weren't going to get it, right? You get the money back. She goes, it's PayPal. So they will give my money back somehow. And she had that perception. It's good. You just have to live up to it, I guess.
Telling this story, is this an attempt to tease Microsoft or Path Solutions as well? And telling you're flexing your muscles, how big you are? Even people buy my Mercedes through PayPal?
No, but I think maybe one comment on that. I was hesitant of saying it, but let me go ahead and say it as a character. I can't hold back a little bit. I mean, when we come into a market, right, or when we do partner, that's something that I like about the company. That we kind of, from a financial institution perspective, I do understand and empathize that we could be seen as a frenemy in a sense, or a threat in a sense, or a competition in a sense, but. Think about it this way, right? Today, the issuing banks anywhere in the UAE to Pakistan to wherever, right, all of a sudden disappear. Or the banks that we use to acquire these transactions, Visa, MasterCard one day, from a scheme perspective, one of the components disappeared. We don't have a business anymore as PayPal, right? To an extent, that would be disruptive, right? If the banks one day disappear from the face of the earth, PayPal don't have a business at that point because we rely on the banking infrastructure, and we kind of have a product that complements that infrastructure on top of it, right? So anything that we do usually ends up being a growth driver, right? And it does come with the component of security, right? As I was calling with policies like buyer and seller protection. So it's an easy place to be in a meeting room when I'm saying, usually, most of the time, let me say, the interests are on the safe side of the fence with our partners and our merchants, right? Because unless they do good, we don't do good. Unless the banks do good, we don't do good. So that's 2 cents that
synergy is the way, as is the natural order. And I didn't know that a joke from my side would actually be a reality in practice. I mean, this is the first in any panel session, I'm guessing. Now, Kateeb, coming back to you, cybersecurity and climate change. Your role is doubly dangerous and doubly difficult because you have to ensure that this is done in a Sharia compliant way. Your take, buddy.
I hate to be the realist here and keep bringing people to some serious issues. I believe I'll add to security, I'll add the privacy issue. And I think in 2020, there was a huge awakening. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of it. I know it's a worldwide news, which was the solar wind hack that Microsoft exposed. And what they have done in that huge hack is some bad people got into a company that sells infrastructure to millions of organizations around the world. And they put some malware code inside that infrastructure code. And when people upgraded, they got control of a lot of organizations, and it took 6 and 8 months to actually find what is happening. This is, guys, is really, I thank you for Mughees for bringing this issue up, because this is really, I believe, is the #1 issue. And if you look at the CIOs, not only in our region, but worldwide, you look at the CIOs' priorities, and #1 priority is definitely the cybersecurity and the security of their organization, especially now that you are exposing, most of the organizations are exposing their businesses to the world, not anymore in a data center, and only the employees has access to that data. So I believe this is tremendously important issue, and I believe it will continue to be more important, because with the advancement of securities that's going on, you also have advancement in the technology. And I hate to break the news for you, but the people who are familiar with quantum physics, they know that when you come with quantum computing, you actually, most of these password encryptions that we have today can be breakable in seconds. So now it is basically moving as fast in the security, but also in the technology, and it's really becoming an urgency that for a lot of companies to address. I believe also the privacy area is also extremely important, and what is happening with the big social media companies, and how the Congress in the US is focusing on these companies, and how are there a lot of manipulation of the populations. We saw what happened in politics, and they're actually used as tools for manipulation. So those are very important issues, the privacy and the security, very important issue to bring up and talk about. And sadly, we see it talking a lot about in the West, in the US, a lot of it in Europe, but we don't see in the Islamic world a lot of discussions about it. And we see them just following the advancements, and we don't see the regulations are educated. Like for me, the central banks have to create, all of the central banks have to create units in the Islamic finance in markets that are actually focusing on technology and security. I mean, today, central banks cannot look at themselves as regulators of finance only. They have to look at themselves as regulators of technology, because the technology is coming into banking, huge, and it's coming into fintechs, and fintechs are coming. So I believe competency has to grow in these central banks, and those central banks have to become the trendsetter instead of just the followers in some of these areas. So I do believe these are very important. As for the climate change, I'm not gonna really talk a lot about it. But if you're really interested in that topic, as you know, last week was the World Economic Forum in Davos, and the theme was World Reset. And most of what they talked about was actually how the world was reset by the COVID-19, but sustainability and climate change has a huge part of that World Economic Forum. And I encourage a lot of you to just go in and catch on YouTube some of those presentations. Some amazing discussions happened around the climate change. That's what I would say about that topic.
Thank you very much. And again, you've been hitting so many nails on the head, being so blunt and so honest and being so real in what you have to say. And I totally agree with you, particularly the fact that, regulators mainly have to now be technology regulators than the normal 101 financial regulators. And the reality of the Muslim world being followers and recipients rather than the leaders and initiators. Now, Amel, you've heard these folks before, and you've heard them on their take on cybersecurity and climate change. And you're venturing very seriously into technology orientation for your bank. Cybersecurity is going to be extremely crucial. In your repertoire and in your strategic visionary approach, how are you going to address these 2 or 3 issues, climate change, cybersecurity, in a very proactive manner? And then we'll close the session. You have to unmute, brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not expert for the cybersecurity for sure, but I do understand the problems, and I understand the risks we are taking. And I agree with Mr. Khateeb fully that this is one of the crucial issues, and that whatever we are as a business-oriented people are trying to achieve through different type of technology can be ruined in one day by the enemies of our business activities, if I can say. Regarding the environment issues, I understood Islamic banking as not only the pro forma or formal contractual relationship between client and the bank in such a way that it is complying with no usury activities, but rather as something which has to be in building in its own operation and in its business strategy, something which is related to the Islamic principles, and which is more or less strategic developmental goals of United Nations, which we are actually all of us universally looking forward to achieve. And in such a way, our financing policies, our investment policies should be actually in line with those strategic developmental goals of United Nations, in order for us to be able to bring some kind of even though small, but impact in society, which is going to channel the funds, channel investments, channel the businesses, channel the customers in the right direction, to create a sustainability in consumerism, to create sustainability in new investments and projects which are going to take place, as well as to advocate for issues which are very important for us as a humans to survive and to be sustained in this globe. This is what I can say at this point of time. I believe that cybersecurity is an extremely important issue, and I will follow what the expert says about it, and I will try to follow the as much as we are in our capacity able to follow the investments in that part.
Spot on, buddy. And I wish you all the best, Amel. And I know personally that you're embarking on some exciting stuff, and may Allah bless you and guide you on that. And for all of us, and I just want to thank you, all of these. I mean, I wish, guys, and particularly, I mean, the Bigtechs, can't we invent a platform where, you know, I can teleport myself and keep the discussion going and not be bound by this, you know, conference timelines? You know, I mean, such a powerful, interesting discussion. I don't want to leave the session, is what I'm feeling. You know, I'm so super excited. But I want to thank you so very much. I mean, this was a wonderful session. Personally, a lovely experience for me to host you guys. An honor to chair you guys. I mean, we are all equal, but, you know, I mean, it was the conference folks who made me the chair. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I believe, I may not want to exaggerate it, but as of now, apparently, I believe that this panel discussion would be rated among the top 3, if not the first. I'm hoping it's the first, among the youth mainly. And good luck to all of us. Good luck to all the technology solutions. Lastly, I mean, in Kyrgyzstan, where I'm the vice president of the association, you know, we are trying to ensure that all of this is materialized in the Kyrgyz society from a very word go. So Path Solution, Amel, Emrah, and Roberto, you have a lot of work to do with me in that part of the region as well. So all the best, guys, and thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
All the best. And salam alaikum.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mughees, for this great session. Yes, I really do agree with you. That session made the day at this conference. So I wish we had enough time